Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. You joined me here in the 2024 Lexus IS500 F-Sport. And if you follow the channel, then you'll know I did have a 2023 IS500 late last year, I believe in early November. And for the most part, the 2024 models are going to be a carryover, and I believe a color or two was introduced for the exterior. But outside of that, I believe there was very, very little change. Now, the IS500 has a soft spot in my heart. Well, because for one, I had that 2023 model when I got the offer accepted on my very first house. So that's just going to be a cool fact that, will go with me forever. And you join me here in the next model year, and I actually just moved into the house. So I guess IS500 and first home go hand in hand for two different cars, if you will, here in my personal life. Now, anyways, go ahead and starting out this video with my normal acceleration, we'll go ahead and put the car in Sport Plus mode and full throttle. So under the hood of the IS500, you're going to find the 5-liter naturally aspirated V8 paired to an 8-speed torque-converted automatic transmission. Now, the engine itself puts out 472 horsepower and I believe somewhere just under 400 pound-feet of torque. Now, unfortunately, the 8-speed torque-converted automatic transmission is going to be the weakest link out of the powertrain within the IS. Unfortunately, it's not the 10-speed that is paired to the 5-liter in the LC500 vehicles, and the 8-speed, I believe, is just a little bit of an older design inside of this vehicle. It's not the quickest shifting thing out there. It has some either weird programming or weird tendencies, and put your foot down, it's a little slow to decide which gear it wants to go into, and doesn't normally drop more than 2 gears at a time unless you do hit that mechanical kickdown switch, which certainly will get this engine revving and get you on your way very quickly. But it will let you bang off the red line if you do wish. Now, moving on to some of the other aspects of the IS. Well, this is going to be an older generation or vehicle, or the platform underneath the skin is going to be just older in general. Now, they did do a facelift on the IS, I believe around the 2021 model year, and the IS500 came out for the 2022 model year. And as a whole, the exterior of the IS, even though, a lot of it is based on an older platform or architecture, looks fairly modern. It has, the pretty large gloss black front grille at the front of the vehicle. You have a small gloss black rear spoiler on the deck lid. Of course, you have the very nice staggered vertical quad exhaust tips, which is one of the easiest ways to tell an IS500 from that of the regular IS models. But the overall exterior design is actually very, very good, and I think is still relevant for a compact sports sedan like this. So from the outside, it looks like a fairly modern and newer type of vehicle. Now, that kind of totally changes once you get onto the interior, and some of this is for the good and some of it is for the not so good. Now, some of the highlights of the interior, well, for one, this one has the black and red two-tone leather, which is quite a stunning color combination, especially on this gray exterior. But the seats themselves are extremely soft, have a very good shape to them, and are one of the best aspects, I think, of the interior of this older vehicle in general. Now, another highlight of the interior is going to be all the physical buttons and knobs. Well, to me, I think this is, great to see, and it's somewhat refreshing to get inside of the IS after being inside some of the latest generation of vehicles, some of which are starting to revert back to buttons and knobs, but other ones are still, venturing on with touch capacitive type controls, and to me, that is just not it, especially for a vehicle like this. So it is somewhat refreshing to actually get inside the interior and see this older design language because, well, there's just some inherent benefits, in my opinion, to older design. So you have a physical CD player inside of the interior, for example. So if you like your CDs and want a brand new Lexus model, well, this, I believe, is one of the last not only new vehicles, but Lexus vehicles to offer a built-in CD player. Now, unfortunately, it does use the older infotainment system from Lexus, which is, kind of a little bit outdated. Actually looks really outdated, to be honest. It does support wired Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, thankfully, but that means, unfortunately, you do have to take up the 2 front cup holders inside this vehicle or throw your phone inside of the actual center console because, well, you're going to have a cord attached to the USB-A port inside of the armrest for that functionality. So no wireless functionality is a big miss in my opinion, and I did mention that in my dedicated likes and dislikes video. You do get 3-person memory driver's seat, which I think is awesome, and you know, the steering wheel's of an older design language, but it is a nice leather wrap, perforated in nature. There's a nice Dodge Viper, which looks fantastic. Wish I was inside of that vehicle, but I'm not upset to be inside the IS500 here on this review because that 5-liter V8 sounds and feels fantastic behind the wheel. But overall, the driver assistance technology is Lexus's 2.5 system, which has been around for several years now. It's not the latest and greatest in terms of software and hardware, which I believe is version 3.0, but it still has adaptive cruise control, lane centering assist, automatic high beam assist, blind spot detection, forward collision braking, and stuff like that. So you still do have a lot of the nice functionality, albeit the cruise control is separated here on the lower side of the steering column, which is another dead giveaway that this vehicle is a little bit older in its design language. But for a daily driver, the IS500 is still fantastic to be within, and as long as you can get around the overall footprint and space of the cabin, it is going to be a little bit on the smaller side, but is still very usable. It does have, you know, usable back seats as long as your people aren't, you know, much over 6 feet tall, or don't mind, you know, a compact sedan like this. It's very nice to be in. You know, in normal or comfort mode in terms of the drive modes, the vehicle and transmission respond like, you know, kind of a traditional luxury sedan would. Effortless acceleration, the shifts are not a problem from the 8-speed automatic. You know, it's just a pretty quiet cabin space. You don't hear a ton of outside noise from wind or anything like that. I will say the most noise intrusion you get inside of the cabin is going to be from these Bridgestone summer tires, which unfortunately, like I mentioned in my last IS video, is not going to be a highlight in terms of performance, both in the dry or the wet, and unfortunately is not going to be on the quiet side of things, as really that is what you hear coming inside of the cabin in terms of NVH. So outside of that, the engine sounds fantastic, has a nice throaty induction noise to it. And the exhaust is fairly, I would say, moderate in terms of a vehicle. Kind of matches the overall styling and expectation. It's not going to be loud. It's not valved. It doesn't have any of the electronic goodies, but still has a nice tone from the exterior, especially under harder acceleration. So it's, you know, certainly a great Grand Tourer vehicle inside of the IS500, and awesome to use on a daily basis. You know, my overall total MPG, I'm sure this is not representative of what the actual real world results I've gotten is, but the car says I'm getting about 18.5 MPG in a little bit of a mix of city and highway type of driving. But depending on how hard you drive this car and how much you are putting your foot down, just to hear that 5-liter V8, I would expect somewhere in the mid-teens on a normal basis, or if you drive it gently, you know, maybe pushing 20 MPG or so. So with some of that information out of the way, you might be wondering, what vehicles does the IS500 compete with? Well, Lexus is not targeting the most ultimate hardcore performance machines from other brands, such as Audi's RS performance models, BMW's M Division, and stuff like that. They're actually sitting one step down, hence the F-Sport nameplate. So this is going to compete with Audi's traditional S vehicles, such as the S4, the S5, BMW's M Performance vehicles, which are the M340i, for example, even things like the Genesis G70 3.3-liter twin-turbo V6, the outgoing Kia Stinger 3.3, and I'm sure there's, you know, an Acura TLX, maybe Type S, and stuff like that. So you're not going to expect this vehicle to compete with the top dogs in terms of its overall performance, although it does on paper have, you know, some of the highest horsepower and you know, engine performance, but it does certainly kind of lend itself to be a more I don't want to say warm sports sedan, but certainly not overall raw performance and leading in those categories. Now, getting here onto the interstate, we'll go ahead and test out some of the handling and driver assistance technologies. And going around this corner, you can feel it's a fairly soft riding vehicle. Now with that said, acceleration is absolutely phenomenal, and there is still a good amount of body control despite the softer type of suspension that Lexus has decided to go with to keep this vehicle more on the comfortable side of things. Now, using the driver safety systems and technology, well, it's a little bit clunky because you are going to be using the stalk here on the bottom, but once you get it activated, automatically adjust the adaptive cruise control. The lane centering is active. It actually functions quite well. So I would have no complaints driving this vehicle over a long distance out on the road trip or just, across the country. It does remind you to keep your hands on the wheel after just a few seconds, but it works fairly well and I have no complaints. LED headlight performance from the tri-beam LED projectors is fantastic. The auto high beam assist is a little bit on the delayed side of things, so it doesn't necessarily turn off as soon as it detects oncoming traffic. It takes just a slight second or two, but if that's going to be the worst thing when it comes to the safety systems and some of the driver assistance technologies, I'm totally fine with that. I just got to admit, it's going to be a sad day when the time comes that this vehicle is going to be officially discontinued. So if you're looking at potentially purchasing the Lexus IS500, I would highly recommend looking at getting one right now because, well, we don't know for certain if there is going to be a 2025 model year of this vehicle. I would actually be a little bit surprised if there is going to, but it is just a, very, enjoying, engaging. You have a sense of character inside of this vehicle and behind the wheel of it that you don't necessarily find in all of the other vehicles that this one competes with. So if you actually want a smile on your face, have some character in the way that the engine performs, the way the transmission is, how the chassis and platform feels as a whole, I would say the IS500 offers one of the better experiences in that regard, and it's not just a completely numb driving experience, mundane day-to-day basis. It's certainly something that is very enjoyable, and I have absolutely enjoyed both the 2023 last fall as well as this one right here, and it actually reminds me, if anything, how enjoyable this car is to drive. With something that you don't really find in any of the other competition, the 5-liter naturally aspirated V8. So I think with all that being said, that is going to do it for this video and driving review of the 2024 Lexus IS500 F-Sport. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I'm going to give a huge thanks to Lexus for sending this vehicle out for me to review for you guys. Like I said, I have some personal ties to the IS500 nameplate now with my first home. And, just having this vehicle in the driveway of that home, which I got last fall in the IS500 as well, is just something special personally. But I think even with that aside, it's still a very solid vehicle, one that you can enjoy driving on a daily basis. Heck, you could even drive this vehicle year-round with the dedicated snow mode here on the center console in the drive mode selection. Just remember, you do have to put a dedicated snow tire or maybe a good high-performance all-weather all season on it if you do want to drive it in the snow, as the summer tires will not cut it. But it should likely get around without much issue with the proper wheel and tire setup on it. But I would just say, go ahead and get yourself an IS500 if you're looking for something that certainly will give you an engaging, connected driving experience, something that has its own character and personality behind the wheel, and certainly sounds some of the best within the competition in this segment of vehicle. So I think that is going to do it here for my driving impressions and driving review of the 2024 Lexus IS500 F-Sport. If you guys enjoyed it and or found something helpful, make sure to hit that like button below. It greatly helps out the channel's videos. Subscribe if you haven't already, and consider becoming a channel member if you guys want to support the channel even further and help creating these videos. Once again, a huge thanks to Lexus for sending this vehicle out for me to test and review for you guys. And as always, I hope to see you guys in the next one.